Say those.
Not recording.
That's so now.
Hey, listen, you just call me, I'll take care of it.
Ruling on some previous challenge territory. We've also added the Body 24 grant, which was from the original $79 million from DHCD plus an additional $12 million for Body 24 in the Restoke areas. We're up to $97 million from DHCD, over $250 million in matching funds from both the localities as well as the private sector providers, for a total project that's over $350 million. Again, as we've said, this is what we call a super regional project, 13 county partners across 5 different planning district regions, 4 utility partners, and when all is said and done, you hope, in 4+ years, we will have provided access. The project will have provided access to over 44,000 businesses and residences. So, want to point out too that since we reported to you last, actually, I'm going to get to that later because there is a slide on that in terms of the increase in the number of passings that we're seeing due to accelerated work by 5. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our communication efforts, as well as fiscal management, and then end with some pictures to show some of the progress that's being made across the 13 county region. There are the logos for all the 13 counties that are involved. Across the bottom are the utility service providers, and then TJPDC and Firefly. TJPDC and Firefly meet regularly every other week to have an external project team meeting. And then on a quarterly basis, we invite folks from all of the counties and all of the participants and stakeholders in the project to a quarterly stakeholder meeting. We had our most recent one the first part of June, and we have another one coming up next week, I believe. That's just a good opportunity for folks in all of the counties to be able to hear from Firefly, from Dominion, from REC, from Appalachian Power about the progress that's being made on the project. Some fiscal grant management points to just kind of remind you of as TJPDC as the grant administrator. We are reviewing invoices that are coming in for work that has been completed by Firefly and its partners. We're verifying those invoices. I'll tell you that an invoice package can be 400 to 500 pages. We're verifying that. We're then submitting remittance requests to the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is the holder of the grant funds, as well as invoicing counties for their proportionate share of given work that's been done. And then once those are processed at the state level, we receive the reimbursements back and process those to Firefly. Just to give you an indication of what we've been able to run through the books here at TJPDC so far for body 22 as of the close of the fiscal year. About $82 million in funding have run through our books. That's majority of that being from DHCD and the counties towards the construction costs. And then you can see that for our administrative costs and the administrative budget that we have in our agreement with DHCD, we pulled in over $675,000 for that. Body 24 is really gonna be interwoven with 22 as Firefly is doing its work. Not a lot of invoices at all have been processed yet, save for the administrative costs that we have been submitting for the work that we've been doing here at TJPDC on the body 24 project. Next slide, please. So where are we through August? And one of the things that we do is we submit monthly reports to the Department of Housing and Community Development, and this is the latest report in August. You can see the numbers there, but a lot of upfront field work, design work, make ready construction. What really stands out to me though is you look at both the aerial and the underground miles of fiber. It's over 2,300 miles of fiber that's been hung or buried across this project. And that has made possible over 24,000 passings. That's access that 24,000 residents or businesses could have a high-speed internet across the 13 county area. That's where I wanted to let you know that since we reported to you last 6 months ago, I think we reported about 17,000 passings. So you can see that the work has really accelerated to see another 7,000 passings in about 6 months. Firefly has a goal of actually making 200 to 250 actual connections to homes or businesses every week. So if they can continue to do that and increase on that, you can see where the numbers are going to continue to go up. Next slide, please. Again, with body 24, field work that's being done, there has been some fiber that's been completed and a limited number of passings. Those numbers will grow as we move forward in time. And I should mention too, didn't specify previously, but the project was originally scheduled to be a 3-year project. We signed our contract with DHCD in August of 2022. We were able to get an extension for the body 22 project until June 30th of 2024. June 30th, 2026. I was already moving on to body 24, which has a completion date of December 31st, 2026. Thank you. All right, now the fun parts. Every month, staff has been going out to the different counties to see either work that is underway on the project or work that has been completed. So just want to lead you through some of the recent months, first part of the year and into the summer, some of the visits that we made. These are some pictures from Madison County. Actually, sometimes the timing is just perfect because you get there and there's work going on. So I'd actually stopped at this communications hut up in Madison County that was being put in. And once that was installed, it was going to kind of serve as the focal point for expanding service in that particular area along Hoover Road in Madison County. In March, we had one of our staff visit a very remote area of Amherst County near the Blue Ridge Parkway, where there was a rural country store that had received service recently from Firefly. In April, visit to the St. John Family Life and Fitness Center in the Keswick area of Albemarle County. It was an old African-American Rosenwald school, and they had recently just gotten broadband internet as well. And I think we're moving towards creating a internet hotspot at that location as well. Skipping on to May, we had one of our staff development field trips in May, and we went to Nelson County. Part of our visit included stopping at Saunders Brothers Nursery and Farm Market. We had a great tour of their facilities there. Jesse could tell you, I'm sure, more about Saunders Brothers, but it's a family-owned business. It's been in Nelson for over 100 years. They've got about 400 acres. And across their operations, they've got more than a dozen Firefly accounts. So they use high-speed internet in a lot of their operations, and we're very grateful to have had that service to their facilities. And then I think the last site visit that we have to share with you is actually one that we conducted. Started out at the Fiber Hut in Cuckoo in Louisa County, and that was one that staff from the Department of Housing and Community Development had requested to come and do a site visit for our project. So the picture there on the left, you can see we're inside the hut, able to share the workings of the hut and where the service is lit. Firefly folks were able to also share some GIS mapping while we were at that location. We then hopped in vehicles and followed the line coming out of the hut, this aerial, down the road till it went underground and went to the 53rd Winery and Vineyard. And then we're able to go and see both the external and get inside to see the internal connections. There at the winery, and got to talk to, I believe it was one of the owners that was there, very appreciative of being able to have the service. And I think one more slide. This is the last slide. It's just, we always like to point anybody that we get a call from or an email from or sharing with you all to point you to the Firefly website, particularly they have a listing that shows updates in their progress or construction progress by county. So you can go in and see where they have been working in different areas of the county and whether it's already connected, whether connections are in progress, or a time frame, fall of 2025, winter of 2026, when they're expecting to be working in those particular areas. So always a great resource, and I think they keep that updated on a week-to-week basis. So I believe that is all. Glad to take any questions that you might have. We love this project. It's a great project, and I think we probably said it before. We'll say it again. I think DHCD has been very appreciative and satisfied, to say the least, complimentary in public. To the work that not only of all the partners in this project, but also the work that TJPDC is doing to administer the grants.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I got a comment. I would say that this project with Firefly and TJPDC, of everything we've got, or have had going on in Louisa, including the instance water, this thing has gone perfect, on schedule.
You had to choose.
Majority of our projects don't even come close to this. It's been way better than anything we've been associated.
And we were very fortunate to have Louisa County host, I guess about a month or so ago, first part of August, a celebration of the 40,000th connection that Firefly has made as part of the RISE project. So just about all the board supervisor members were there, and it's a great.
95% coming.
95%. He's not going to jinx it for Louisa.
No, I think the only place that's left is Kachu.
Well, LC is 150%. I got two shows.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Good job, guys. It's a big task. It's a big deal.
I think Fluvanna is 100% covered.
But like I said, we're at 150%. Oh, no.
I think that Gary Wood made a comment down at the high school that the area that Firefly is covering is so far ahead of like 95% of the rest of this country.
Oh, yeah.
With coverage. So it's just amazing to bring the three, well, for our area, the three power companies together Central Virginia bringing with it. It's just a phenomenal thing that happened with this.
You know, one thing I do want to say publicly, and I think is important, Gary Wood is a hero. And nothing short of that. I truly believe that there is no elected office or anything that could ever accomplish what he did in the last 6 years. And to be perfectly honest, you know, this is something that I was considered on the Nelson County Board of Supervisors, some letter of commendation of Firefly and specifically Gary Wood, because this was his brainchild. I mean, you know, I remember 8 years ago, a PDC meeting over at a UVA building. Do you guys remember that?
You know, the years county living.
Eight, 9 years ago,
Oh,
we got to
okay.
do this the first time. I mean, and I don't think I had any doubt that it would happen for Nelson, but to see what it has become.
Well, COVID helped a lot.
What's that?
COVID helped a lot.
COVID really helped expedite. Luckily, Nelson County was on the list before that, so.
But you were at that meeting, he said, I've convinced my board to spend $90 million and we're gonna wire up all of our customers.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing this for our own purpose. The state of Virginia had allocated $10 million for the entire state. Just to put it in perspective.
I think we take a step in this. I would like to instruct staff to write a resolution thanking Firefly and specifically Gary Wood. This astronomical feat, one that many of us politically could have only have dreamed of. But if it wasn't for the efforts of Mr. Wood and his staff and those around him, that this would not be possible. I do think that is a worthy resolution, if that is okay to be forward.
Got a motion?
That is a motion.
Sorry. Motion on second. We want to do a roll call vote? We just do by voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes unanimously. That's it. Yeah. Well, it's certainly amazing what can be done with government programs and federal funding. Now on to second item, the watershed improvement program or WIP update.
That's a part program update to follow up. Alrighty. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Isabella O'Brien, a regional planner with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. And a key part of my role is managing our Chesapeake Bay Local Watershed Implementation Plan, or WIP as we like to call it. And tonight I'll provide a brief overview of this year's program, highlight some key updates, and share our plans for next year. But as an overview, this is an annual contract with the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality designed to help our region meet the pollution reduction standards of the Clean Water Act. And as our region continues to grow and develop, we see increasing pressure on our waterways from stormwater runoff. So the program's goal is to help meet the total maximum daily load set for pollutants entering local streams and eventually the Chesapeake Bay, ensuring our waterways meet the water quality standards for uses like fishing, drinking water, recreation, and other uses. Next slide, please. So for background, after decades of restoration efforts, starting with the first Chesapeake Bay Agreement in 1983, water quality in the bay was still declining. Pollution from agriculture, wastewater, and urban development continued to harm aquatic life and habitats, as well as the local economy. So in response, on December 29th, 2010, the EPA established a numerical goal known as the Chesapeake Bay TMDL. This is essentially a pollution diet for the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed seen here. It sets a maximum amount of pollutants a water body can receive while still meeting those water quality standards. And because the voluntary agreements of the past weren't enough, the TMDL became the federal strategy to accelerate restoration and hold all of the states accountable. So to ensure project success, a 4-part accountability framework was developed, which includes Virginia's watershed implementation plan, this broken down into 2-year segments, the WIP milestones, and then EPA tracks progress. And if the goals are not met at the end of the deadline, then EPA has the power to put in place federal actions to ensure that those goals are met. So our work as the PDC is just one aspect of Virginia's WIP, contributing to this coordinated effort to improve water quality. So now that you've kind of got a big picture of the TMDL, we can talk about our role as a PDC. So since 2018, this program has been funded by $58,000 from DEQ, matched by $14,500 in local funds. So our primary focus is providing support to the unregulated non-MS4 areas, which are essentially the rural, non-urbanized portions of our region. So unlike the cities and towns with a municipal separate storm sewer system, these areas don't have the same level of regulatory oversight by DEQ. So this program allows us to fill some of that gap, addressing the non-point source pollution that's critical to the long-term success of the Bay cleanup. Next slide, please. So after the technical committee to the Chesapeake Bay reviewed the Bay's response to recent restoration efforts last year, it became clear that the Bay jurisdictions were not on track to meet all of the pollution reduction goals by 2025. So in response, DEQ instructed Virginia PDCs to transition our focus from regional coordination and education to supporting increased implementation of green infrastructure projects or best management practices. So in 2024 and 2025, to support this shift, additional funding was made available through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And this allowed us to apply for additional funding to support shovel-ready projects in our localities. So this grant and our work this year has already shifted further towards implementation, but no additional funding has been allocated through DEQ for 2026 to continue this work. Next slide. So some of the successes from this year, it's really been a pivotal year for our program. In the way of on-the-ground implementation, we were awarded 2 additional grants from this IIJA funding. This included $165,000 to support low-income homeowners with septic system repair, replacement, maintenance, and connection to public sewer, which is oftentimes very costly. Yes?
Excuse me, Isabella, if I could just interrupt. BMP, best
Yes.
management practices?
Yes, so there's a whole slew of them that are defined by the Chesapeake Bay program. I can send a link if you're curious, but it's basically just green infrastructure practices that help reduce pollution to the bay. So this can look like tree planting projects along a riverbank, rain barrels attached to a home, things like that. Yeah, and as well as agricultural practices, I should mention as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
On top of the septic program, we also received about $14,000 to fund 8 regional rain barrel workshops, a hands-on way to engage the public and educate them on water conservation at home. As far as tools and partnerships, we released the first version of the stewardship mapping and assessment project, first started in New York, which I'll discuss in more detail in the next 2 slides. We've also updated our grant tracking document to help local staff and nonprofits easily find funding for Bay-related projects. We launched a new quarterly regional environmental coordination meeting. So far, we've had 3 successful meetings where we've brought local staff together to share information, build partnerships, and hear from experts on topics like community flood preparedness funding and resiliency planning, and the impacts of data centers in our watershed. So the Stewardship Mapping and Assessment Project, or STEWMAP, is an online tool designed to help us better understand the environmental stewardship network within our region. STEWMAP is essentially a living map of all of the organizations doing environmental work in our area. It allows us to visualize their organizational characteristics so we can see details like their mission, the services they offer, staff size, to help understand capacity and how they operate. We also can see their geographic turf. which shows where each group is active. And this is critical to understand where there's overlaps in types of stewardship as well as gaps that we need to address across the landscape. And finally, the network tool visualizes how groups are connected, showing who is partnering with whom and who acts as an information or funding broker. And this data really helps to expand partnerships across the region. Next slide. This is a screenshot of the StuMap dashboard, and it also links to a video tutorial, and I won't play the video today, but I highly recommend watching the short 5-minute tutorial also on the TJPDC webpage, and it walks you through how to navigate the dashboard and the associated network maps. Next slide. So looking ahead to 2026, our proposed work program focuses on building on our recent momentum and leveraging the tools that we've already created. We'll continue our workshops in partnerships with the Soil and Water Conservation Districts and the James River Association to help more residents conserve water and reduce stormwater runoff. We will update the StuMap tool, inviting existing organizations to update their data, encouraging new groups to join, and ensuring that it remains a valuable resource for identifying gaps and growing partnerships. We will continue the regional environmental coordination meetings and keep hosting them to support collaboration among localities and local partners. And then we will develop a regional communication strategy to better promote our work and the importance of our collective efforts to strengthen communications with the wider audience and better connect with local information outlets. Next slide. I also wanted to make you aware of the ongoing update to the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Agreement. As previously mentioned, the current agreement's goals have a deadline of December 2025, and research shows that we're not on track to meet all of them. So this new agreement will guide the entire Bay partnership, including Virginia, and it's important for our region to be aware of the shifting goals and priorities. The public comment period for the draft just closed, and we've been following this closely and sharing updates with our partners. But this new agreement will be the roadmap for restoration efforts beyond 2025, which are expected to continue. And I provided a one-pager that highlights some of the key changes relevant to local leaders and links to the Bay Program website with more information. At this point in time, the news is that Chesapeake Bay funding remains in the federal spending plans, but more to come. So thank you for your time this evening, and please let me know what questions you have.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah. Is Harlan, Pennsylvania, contribute the same amount as Virginia?
Yeah,
All the same.
they're also part of the Chesapeake Bay Act and have to stay in line with EPA, but they set their own watershed implementation plans. So back in 2018, 2019, different stakeholders to the watershed came together to create our state's local plan. So theirs might look a little different, but they're contributing for sure. I know Maryland's ahead of the game. I think Pennsylvania is behind us, but they're working.
What is the impact of data centers in the watershed?
You should attend the upcoming Fluvanna River Basin Commission conference. Thanks for taking that up. That will be September 24th, if you haven't heard about it, but we'll have some local experts from the Virginia Association of Counties, Piedmont Environmental Center, Ravenna authorities to share on what those impacts will look like.
No teasers, so.
I'm not the expert in that yet.
Any other questions or comments? Now we can move on to the next item. Home and CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Figure Presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Lori Jean Talloon. The CAPER, as I think you all know, is the year-end report for the HUD-funded Home Investment Partnerships Program. So our region receives anywhere between around 600,000 to 700,000 a year from this program. We can just jump to the next slide. I don't think I can do it on here. Thanks. So this year we spent $781,000 to complete 8 homeowner rehabilitation projects, which were mostly in Nelson County this year, as well as Albemarle County, I'll get to what the other counties are doing in a second. And then one new homeowner unit, which was through Habitat for Humanity in Greater Charlottesville. And as I will share more later, we're working with a lot of our partners on preparing a larger number of rental units for the future. Jump to the next one. So the City of Charlottesville contributes the majority of the match funding year after year. So the CAF fund in the City of Charlottesville contributed these 3 different projects. They gave additional funding to AHIP to do homeowner rehabilitation in the city. CRHA, which is the Public Housing Authority, which is redeveloping a whole bunch of properties in the City of Charlottesville. And then to Habitat as well for additional homebuyer housing. Next one. And then just a quick update on some of the long-term projects that may not be reflected by those earlier numbers. CSH is Community Services Housing, and they provide primarily for folks with disabilities, low-income rental housing throughout our area. And so they have received a fair amount of funding to do repairs on those units, primarily like safety concerns, as well as things like refrigerators that are no longer working, things like that, so that those homes can be better places to live. And then FLHF, the Fluvanna Louisa Housing Foundation, is working on 2 different whole little complexes of low income rental units, one in Fluvanna and one in Louisa. And so we're probably next year's year-end report will have a much larger number of money spent as well as number of units as a result. And then PHA, as probably many of you know, the former MACA property. My apologies to MACA for the A being in the wrong place there. But the property just north of here, they are turning into a large set of rental units. I think perhaps a few homebuyer units as well. And so some of our funding will be going and contributing towards that as well. So again, that's another thing we'll kind of be seeing coming down the pike that we've been working on this year, but will be more reported on in the future. Okay, next one. And just so you know, the timeline for this report that is due to HUD on September 27th, the City of Charlottesville has already approved it. They heard it twice and have supported it. We did have a public comment period. We did not receive any comments. So if you all approve, then we will be submitting in the coming weeks. Any questions?
One quick comment in the draft paper report.
Yes.
There are several references in the end in Charlottesville's efforts and larger policy efforts where they refer to when the zoning ordinance is adopted.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay. I will double check that. Thank you. We'll make sure that that's updated. Thank you.
Yeah, I triple checked that to make sure I wasn't in the wrong fiscal year. And actually,
Yeah.
no, in fact, it was indeed.
Okay. Yes. We might have meant once the court cases were complete. So that needs to be changed.
Yeah, at least another year. But if there aren't any other questions, we can move into opening the public hearing. Is there anybody in person or online who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Is there a resolution to adopt 2024 home CDBG caper? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Should we do roll call vote?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Smith, Goolsby absent. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Barlow,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Mr. Reed, Mr. Payne,
Yes.
Mr. Durante.
Yes. All right, the resolution passes. Now to the next item, the housing preservation grant, draft scope of work.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a presentation as such this evening as I presented last meeting on the Housing Preservation Grant program that we administer from USDA. We are in the process of finalizing our application, which we now know, we didn't know the amount we were applying for last time. We were applying for $271,593 from USDA. This is for the Housing Preservation Grant, which is for home rehabilitations in our rural localities. So Albemarle, it would just be the rural parts. So that is the entirety of the state allocation from USDA for the state of Virginia. In the past, we've only applied for half. Last year, we applied for half and we got half, but the other half was not used. No one else was a successful applicant. So when there's two or more applicants, no applicant can get more than 50% of the funding. So last year there was just one. So hypothetically, we could have gotten the full amount. So this year we are going to apply for the full amount. The draft scope of work was included in your agenda, and I have a physical copy here if anyone should like to read through it. But yeah, the resolution this evening serves both as a sort of vote of support for the application, but also as an intergovernmental review. So basically getting assent from all of our localities that there's financial assistance available through this program in those localities. So I think that's it.
Are there any questions for the public hearing? Not, I will open the public hearing. For anyone in person or online who'd like to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution of intergovernmental review and final support for the HPG? I still move. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote.
Mr. Calloway,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Barlow, Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Mr. Payne,
Yes.
Mr. Duranzia.
Aye. All right, thank you. The resolution passes. On to agenda item 4, the consent agenda, minutes from August 7th, 2025 commission meeting, as well as July financial reports. Are there any corrections or comments about any of the consent agenda items?
I have one comment to make on the consolidated profit and loss statement that was included in the financials. I just want to correct that is not the full agency budget. That had not yet been inputted yet. So if you're looking at actuals to budget, the budget doesn't include our major programs yet. That should be in next month's P&Ls.
There's not anything else. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? I so move. Second. All right. All those in favor? Aye. I vote aye as well. Consent agenda passes. On to agenda item 5, old business. Area types for smart scale rural areas.
Okay, as you guys recall, we presented on this, Taylor on my team presented on this last month to you all. We wanted to make sure that we left a minimum of 30 days to get any feedback either from you or your colleagues on the governing boards. We did get a recommendation from the Rural Transportation Advisory Council. They wanted to, or committee, excuse me, they wanted to look at the impact of the smart scale scoring. As you guys recall from last month, the rural areas of our planning district commission are unique in the state in that they were classified as area type C. We want to make a request to the Commonwealth Transportation Board to move that to area type D. Included in the packet was the presentation from last month, as well as the memo that went to all of the county administrators, all of the Lynchburg and Culpeper district staff and residency staff to make sure everybody understood that this was a request that we were going to be making. We did get a couple of questions from some of your staffs, which we were able to answer. We haven't heard any stated opposition to putting this request in. So tonight, what we're looking for from you all is a motion to adopt the resolution of support, but also to authorize the chair and the executive director to execute a letter to the Virginia Secretary and Deputy Secretary of Transportation, requesting that the Commonwealth Transportation Board consider a change to the TJPDC's rural areas area type for smart scale.
So moved. You got it. I'll second it. All right, can we do a roll call vote?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Barlow,
Yeah,
Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Mr. Payne,
Aye.
Mr. Duranzia.
The resolution passes. I just know I got one piece of feedback concerns, is this undermines Charlottesville and Albemarle. I just want to underline that this does not impact Charlottesville and Albemarle. Just because I think some people maybe in the public maybe didn't understand that, so I just want to underline that. Now on to new business, the draft FY 27 projected budget and local revenue requests.
Presenting to you all tonight, the FY 27 projected budget. No action is required tonight, as information only. It'll come back before you in next month's meeting for action. The projected budget is intended to set the per capita rate and the local contribution requests that we will make through your FY 27 local budgets for our requests, the TJPDC. The budget before you is a balanced budget for FY 27. I'm thrilled that we were able to balance it. It does, however, have included in it, you'll see that yellow, right smack in the middle, that has a one-time reserve transfer in order to balance the budget. Some of that is just a placeholder for potential building renovations that would be coming from the capital improvement fund that you guys have set aside. Some of that is for program gap. Pretty much every year we have presented a budget that requires reserve transfer. We have not had to use that transfer in the last several years. So it is still, we still have some uncertainty going into FY 27, so I can't say until closer to spring whether we would need that reserve transfer. But you'll have another opportunity to look at that as we get closer to fiscal year 27. The other thing important to note in here, the two orange highlighted, those two dollar amounts are not the dollar amount that we will be applying to our local governments for per capita. The reason that those are higher is because there is MPO planning money that was not used in fiscal year 25 that rolls over into fiscal year 27. And as such, we're rolling over the required match so that we don't have to ask for additional funding. So that includes the ask that we will make, but it also includes some rollover funding that we have in reserve in order to cover that requirement. So the budget that you see in front of you, these are all the revenues that would be coming in. These are by source, federal, state, and local. The top half of this sheet is related to all of the staff time, staff direct costs, salary, fringe, overhead. The bottom half, when we get down there, is all the pass-through funding. So you'll see starting with pass-through by source, this is where funding comes into us and out through to either a subrecipient or another party. So that's things like body going to Firefly, that's things like the housing preservation grants and the home funds going out to subrecipients who are doing the work. Okay. A couple of assumptions that are in this budget. I did tell you there's that one-time reserve transfer as a placeholder. It does assume a 70-cent per capita rate that was approved back in 2022. It also includes between either 5 or 7% increases in each of the local contributions for direct programs. That was based on the analysis that we did last fall that looked at programs that hadn't had increases in anywhere from 5 to 20 years. And we decided to spread that increase out across the next 5 years rather than a one-time jump. So it does have that increase included. If you'll pull up the per capita sheet next, we'll go through that. It also has included in it the final 25% of the 2-year recommended implementation of the class and comp study. So if you guys recall for FY 27, we gave 75% of the increase as base salary, 25% as bonus. This includes now the full implementation of class and comp. And then it also assumes level staffing from FY 26 to FY 27. It's important to note that at this time in, the planning, we're talking about FY 27. It's true of every year. Not all staff at this point are fully allocated. It usually takes us the rest of this year to secure additional grants, put in applications, see where we have awards that come through in order to fully allocate everybody. If we were to operate on this budget as it's presented tonight and hopefully approved tomorrow, If we did not receive any additional secured funding, we would need to use that reserve transfer. And we would have some staff that are not fully allocated. The reason that's important to note is, for example, if somebody is only 80% allocated to a program, that means 80% of the cost of that employee can be reimbursed through the work that they're doing, 20% cannot. So that could have implications on our indirect cost rate. So if they're billing their time to an admin code, that becomes an administrative cost to the organization. So it's gonna be really important between now and when we present this to you guys in April, May, to make sure we secure some more programming to close some of those gaps. Otherwise, we might have to take some of these assumptions in the budget and rework some of the numbers. Okay. Let's see, it is a balance budget of 24,331,222. You'll see that's about half of what the FY26 budget is. That's primarily because we'd be getting to the tail end of the body projects. So the majority of that drop in funding is the pass-through funding for the project. So if you go all the way to the left of this sheet, Ruth, if you would. See, all the way to the left, we base our per capita rates, the 70 cents per capita on the Weldon Cooper population estimates that are put out. We then, from that per capita, we see additional funding in the yellow. So those are direct program asks that we put into the local governments to fund the staff time for those projects. The purple or blue column, depending on how you see that, is the total contribution by jurisdiction. We then take from the per capita assessment, so that's the 70 cents per capita. From that per capita assessment, we then have to back out all of the required local matches for all of the grants we receive. So if we get a grant that's 80% federal, 20% local, we pull that from the per capita that you guys are already contributing rather than asking for additional funds. That's what we use a lot of your per capita for. So things like the MPO, mobility management, rural transportation advisory committee, all of those we pull from the per capita. So when you get to the tail end of this spreadsheet, you'll then see the balance. That's the green column. That is the balance of per capita funding after all required local matches are taken. And then per commission policy, 75% of that can be spent on regionally significant programming, meaning it has to be 2 or more jurisdictions. 25% of that is for hyper-local support. If your staff calls us, if your team needs us to do anything, we bill it to that category right there. I did include new this year, the last 2 columns, just the total dollar increase in each locality's contribution from last year to this year, and the percent increase from FY26 to FY27. This is another metric to look at. Happy to take any questions on this, bring any additional information that you might need between now and October's meeting, where we would be asking for consideration for approval so that we can then begin the application process to each of the member jurisdictions.
Any questions or comments from the board? If not, well, thank you for that update. We can move on to our next agenda item, the Executive Director's monthly report.
Okay, so in my monthly report, there are 2 items that didn't make it into this because they happened after the fact. First is we have had our first instance of check fraud. A vendor reached out to us, didn't receive the payments that we sent back in May. The check did clear back in May. We reported it to the bank as fraud. We closed the account immediately. We notified the treasurer immediately. We reissued payments to the vendor that did not receive the funds, and we opened a new account. We have signed a disclosure with the bank that we will participate in the investigation to try to identify where those funds were deposited. If the bank is unable to locate that and get our funds back to us, we would then file with our risk insurance in order to get those funds recaptured. It is maybe $2,500 check is what we're talking. So it was not a massive check, but it was still something that happened over, we were notified on Tuesday after the holiday. And so we, between then and now, have done everything that we possibly can do before the investigation begins.
Oh. Someone stole the check in the mail?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like someone took our checking account number.
We have images of the back of the check, and the agency, the vendor that we normally make those payments to has a particular stamp they use. This one was not the same stamp, so it was somebody that hand wrote on the back of the check.
Oh,
So they dunked it in wood alcohol and wrote in a new, bigger number?
No,
No.
it is the amount of the check that as written.
it's
You
just
were
cash.
content with the 2,500. All time players.
Oh, smart too.
No, I mean, they knew that that check was good. At 10,000 pounds, that caused a lot more trouble.
Maybe like criminal.
Well, loan fraud is one of my things.
Yeah, just not saying.
What is this? You did the checking to change the.
Okay. The other thing I was gonna note, before we get into how to do this, we do have the bank, looking at all transactions. They will notify us if anything suspicious happens within the next 90 days as the investigation is going on. So they're looking to make sure there's no additional suspicious activity. We also don't have any, other reports from other vendors that have not had payments for them. So this seems to be an event. We'll keep you guys in the loop. The second thing that came in since the packet went out is we have been working with the owner of our building to consider a scope of work for potential building renovations. Within the last couple of days, they did send a proposal. They had a contractor come through, do all the measurements, take it back and come up with an estimate. After this meeting, I will be asking to pull the buildings committee together to look at that proposal and start to have some discussions about what we would be interested in the scope of work being, what we do want to do, what we don't want to do, and then how do we want to consider doing it, whether it's the TJPDC paying or the owner paying and it being our rent for the next 5 years as a part of our lease. So just some decisions that we would need to make. I'll go through the buildings committee first, and then I'll have them bring their recommendation back to the full commission in the October meeting, if that's possible. If it's not possible to meet before then it would be after our lease renewal, in which case we would work with the owner to do a month-to-month extension of our current 5-year lease, rather than signing a new 5-year lease before a decision was made on building renovations. Any questions on that? There were 5 members on that buildings committee. I was about to remind everybody who volunteered to be on that. I wrote it down. That was Mr. Duranzio, Mr. Smith, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Rutherford, and Mr. Galloway. Are you still all willing and able to gather to discuss that topic? Great, I'll work to get on schedules. Pull something together, hopefully a little later here in September. And then other items from the executive director's report. I'm not going to go through all of these. It's all in written form. You guys can peruse this at your leisure. I do want to highlight a couple of environmental things. Through the watershed program that Isabella was talking about. There are 4 rain barrel workshops scheduled and on the calendar. I'd love to draw your attention to those. 1 in Charlottesville, 1 in Albemarle, 1 in Fluvanna, 1 in Louisa. I encourage you guys to pass this information along to get those things fully that's paid for. I mean, it's a great opportunity for the community to come together and learn. And then the other one that I wanted to note is the Rivanna River Basin Commission is holding its annual fall conference September 24th. And again, as Bella said, that's focusing on water supply planning, data centers. A lot of great speakers for that one. And in the packet is the Eventbrite link, should you be interested in registering or sending it along to someone else. And then the final thing is, as I told you guys in the last monthly meeting, we are going to have a standing item in the executive director's report of any environmental reviews that we receive as part of intergovernmental review. So that has been updated, and there's a link in your packet should you want to review any of the ones that we've received. That is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Now we can move on to final agenda item, roundtable discussion. We can just go around, starting with Fluvanna.
Fluvanna, lots of exciting stuff going on in Fluvanna. Let's see, Tenaska wants to build another power plant in Fluvanna County right now, so that's probably the most exciting thing. So I think it's been revised to almost a $2 billion investment, which is pretty substantial, and I believe the number is close to $8 million in tax revenue per year. So that's an exciting thing. It is not for public, but if you went and looked at the records for a piece of property on Route 15, you could see who purchased it. I'm not released from it, but it has been purchased, and let's just say it's a very big, well-known company that's going to do some warehouse space there. And then the Wawa is still coming. We hope that they're going to put shovels in the ground in the next few years. So more interest, of course, on the economic development side. We certainly expect that that there will be a fair amount of community involvement with regard to the approval or non-approval of the Tenaska power plant. I don't think it's gonna be quite as contentious as it was the first time they came around. Tenasca's been a very good partner. The main concern among the community seems to be around noise levels. Which are currently at about 50 decibels, which is essentially what I'm speaking at right now. But that's the main concern in the community right now. With regard to the Tenasca power plant, so. That's pretty much it from Fluvanna.
Thank you. Almore?
Great, so you may have heard some news about Albemarle that I will not be discussing. And I will leave it at that, and you can Google it. There's also, we had our, a kind of first pass on, our data center ordinance that we're going to try and finalize for end of year. This was basically staff came back, with a series of proposed regulations to kind of check our pulse on it. It is an interesting thing in that I think the board is, kind of at a 3-3 split, generally speaking, on how to approach the problem of data centers. I don't think it's unfair to describe it as, 3 who are data center skeptical and 3 who see it as a reasonable alternative for diversifying our tax base. I should also just caveat that by saying, based off a variety of factors on how they're even being scoped, even the latter faction, I think we're not looking at hyperscale stuff that y'all are getting out there in Louisa. These are still, I think, going to be much smaller footprint that we'd be looking at now in Albemarle County. Another big thing that, like, you know, there's no heat, it doesn't feel sexy, but our comprehensive plan is almost done. Been working on it since before I was involved in politics. And we have what will likely be a final draft that has been released to the public that we will be reviewing soon. We also got our first shot at our legislative priorities, but I might save that for Ned because he had, I thought, some interesting thoughts to add into that he feather in with an issue that we brought up for this commission before.
Supervisor Galvin?
Well, I'll start that then. I've been kind of on a soapbox, I guess, about road funding in Virginia. And the fact that last smart scale, we had $30 billion around the state submitted, and they only approved $8 billion of projects. With $1 billion in addition to that coming as matches from localities. I think I've mentioned this type of comment before. I'm bringing it here to ask for those of you, as you work on your legislative packets, for your own piece, that I think that sometimes when we collectively say together to the state, especially when we have different political mixes, hey, you're not doing a good job funding our roads. That they just have to figure out how to, they can't slice the pie any smaller. This is something where they're gonna have to go, we don't have the adequate funding to do what we need to do. And we have to figure that out. I think there are good ideas in some of the delegates that are not necessarily representatives of our localities. Looking at fees and things like that, they just have to get to work on it. So we're making, in Albemarle, it seems like our board is supportive of making that push of our legislators when we meet them. So I'm just asking for other jurisdictions to do the same, because I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to not just road maintenance, but actual projects that need to be done in our localities. The way they did it the last time, it's going to end up requiring that we end up having to fund our own pieces, and it's just going to be another unfunded mandate sent down to us. Some people think the issues with VDOT. I think it's a revenue sourcing piece. They just have to figure out how to generate the dollars to get these projects done. You can't approve 1/3 of road projects in the Commonwealth and then expect that that's going to do anything for anybody moving forward or so that's my pitch on that. And David's had to hear it a few times. So if there was some collective piece, I don't know if this commission would be willing to write a joint letter with all jurisdictions kind of signing off on it or something like that, but I think if we got creative and could present that to our delegations, it could have some power. Seeing six jurisdictions of this PDC setting up, and who knows, it could even get Augusta, Wadesboro, I was mentioning the SAW, Campo could maybe join that effort as well. So Home Depot's open in Albemarle County. We had the grand opening last Thursday.
I've learned that they do a board cutting with a power saw instead of a ribbon cutting, which was interesting. They wouldn't allow any of us electeds near that saw, though. We'd stay off the stage and allow the professionals to cut it. I have never been to a grand opening that has been so robust and energetic before. They had music going, they had tons of not just their employees there, but a lot of community turnout. They were doing employee appreciation stuff as part of the lead up to having some, a couple of our supervisors were there. Senator Deeds was there, Delegate Paulson was there, Congressman McGuire was there. So it was a big event. They opened up for a couple hours last Thursday and are obviously open for a full day the following Friday. They've been open for about a week now. They I said it to them, I said it to our board, that if the success of the store is half the energy they brought that day, it'll be very successful Home Depot. So, and I don't know that y'all's Lowe's out where you all are at and in Greene and places, but our Lowe's is hasn't had the best reputation. So there's a lot of community residents and people that live around here that are really looking forward to having that Home Depot. But we'll probably get in trouble for saying that Lowe's part out. Our economic development strategic plan, we updated that, so that got approved now in our county. With a new focus on what we're, targeted industries, how we're planning to do things in the development area and the rural area. And then outside of that, I can't think of anything else that we, other than some of the normal things that they're all doing.
Greene County. Next Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting will be a momentous one. The board will be contemplating a resolution to issue $43.5 million in 30-year revenue bonds to cover phase 1 of the construction of the Greene County White Run Reservoir. I anticipate the board will endorse the solution. Also this month, Greene is going to apply to the credit rating agencies for a rating. Past boards did not prioritize this issue, but obviously if we're going to be issuing 30-year bonds, we'll need a credit rating. So we're hoping Moody's and Standard & Poor's provide us with an A. AA would be preferable. BBB, double B would not be ideal. We'll find out later this month.
Louisa?
I'm gonna pass Louisa's stuff on to Mr. Barlow, who's a senior member of the here. But I would like to take this opportunity to comment on what Mr. Galloway said about smart scale agriculture. And I think if all the counties here can get together with that, and as we get together with their representatives and present our case to them on this, I think it's about to the critical point. When we wind up having nobody in the Culpeper district that gets any smart scale projects, as I recall, that's what it was for this year. There's something really wrong with the system. So I agree 100% with you. We will help any way that possible. You're welcome, Tom.
We're having not just this trouble with VDOT, but and I don't know whether it's just our residency or what, but we have taken VDOT out of our review process. Simply because they're just not doing the job. And so if they're gonna hold up projects and not going to review them anyway, then we just remove them from the review process. It's the only negative note I got. We had an Amazon application in and received, and that would have been the third. It received quite a bit of pushback, so it was withdrawn. I don't know whether to come back or not. Just like I say, there's a big push against the right now, so we're still in the thing. Biggest thing that we have going on right now, other than that we had going on for years, is all of a sudden we decided that I think when we got to the status of third in the state fastest growing counties, we decided we were gonna do something to try and go down one, which is just, I think we've got to stop now, which is going in the right direction. So right now, I was in a meeting last night that, we're trying to come up with, reviewing all the sorts of things to incentivize people to keep their farms and their timberland, stuff like that. We're looking at everything from purchase and development rights, to tax incentives, just a whole gamut of things. But the main point is, I think pretty much the full board has decided now that we've got to do something to slow down residential. And, so at this point, right now, that's the biggest thing we're looking at. And, it's no easy fix to it. And so, I don't know, but I think we're gonna make it work, but it's gonna slow down. We can't keep going like that.
You wanna take some of that data center money and donate it to Albemarle County's Affordable Housing Investment Program to help us get the density up. They probably wouldn't be commuting in from Louisa as much. We can help with that, Rick. Help with that effort.
Good approach there, right? I mean, you have all that extra money.
What if you become the next lab county?
Trying to figure out how to spend money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a whole list of things. We're gonna let people sort of pick and choose what's their priorities for business. And one of which was tax rebates and tax relief back to our subsidies. Well, that's sort of a double-edged sword too, because a lot of the draw to Louisa right now is the low tax rate.
And so then you get more people.
Here, so, yeah, we end up
More business.
trying to figure out.
That is the most anti-conservative, I don't know what that is. I'm gonna have to really sit on that one for a little while.
Like, land in Louisa.
No more people.
And they're not even starting to get all the money in it. They're gonna.
We have gotten almost none.
I'm
Our first data center building, I'm sorry, Tom, is supposed to go online at the North Anna campus. They're building 7 shell buildings down there. 150 acres, supposed to be October, November. But they bring them up in phases, so it'll be, I think Amazon splits theirs up into 12 sections. And they bring them up section by section.
Well, Charlottesville is always open to a second revenue sharing.
How about if we do loans?
Jesse Rutherford personally is willing to.
Thank you. Nelson?
Nelson County will be writing a resolution to Louisa or to extend a heart-shaped loan. Just every quarter, essentially, no recourse.
You can send one of those.
Some chocolates.
Invite to that project thing.
Oh, extended into perpetuity.
Yeah.
Anyways, Nelson County, we're in the middle of our rezoning. You know, it's definitely an interesting debate. One of my top 5 things that I've been fighting on is home occupations for working type jobs, brick and mortar. For example, if you're an HVAC guy, you should be able to run your HVAC business from your house. Because you're gonna fill up your garage with the equipment and whatever, that same equivalent as a plumber, as an electrician. So we're in discussion about how many employees that person can have. And of course, I say, well, they're probably only gonna have 3, but why limit them to 3? They're gonna have 2 retired guys that only work part-time, so let's say 7. 7? It's good to know. All right, so 7, it's a new number. So we're in deep discussion on that, in deep discussion about lot size minimums. I have an opinion that you should be able to do, I think, a half acre lot subdivision, right? In certain R1, R2 situations, but if you do not have access to water and sewer, you should have it well drilled in a perked septic site. To prove that you at least have access to water and all, and if you're willing to subdivide half acre, you should be willing to drill a well, with the exception of family subdivisions. The third is setbacks. You know, philosophically, why do setbacks exist? Does anyone know? Front setbacks specifically. Is it aesthetic? Is there a scientific reason?
Yes,
What is the scientific reason?
there's no scientific reason. It's about synergy, harmony, in a harmonious environment, blah, 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 blah.
Even though 80% of the houses could be non-conforming.
Correct.
Right, that is this most synergy.
And what are you,
I'm arguing about,
what are you trying to, bring rationality to this
I'm
conversation?
just trying to go from 75 feet to 40 or 50,
Yeah.
which is a big ask, I recognize. I am proud to say that Nelson County will likely be allowing manufactured housing in all residential zonings, period.
So,
And specifically multi-family manufactured homes. Because this is a new product that's been actually first produced in Virginia, multi-family, double wides and single wides. So, yeah,
Could you elaborate on how you do a multi-family and a double wide?
yeah, we just got two boxes, one box is one door and the other box is another door, and you got a firewall right down the middle. It's pretty default, think about it, you got a marriage on there, putting in a firewall is actually really easy. So, the feds approved that new product, so Virginia was the first factory to produce it. I'm proud to say Nelson County will likely be one of the first counties to allow multifamily, where multifamily is allowed to include manufactured home.
So the neighbors are a quarter inch or particle board away.
No,
Firewall.
2025, have you ever seen a firewall these days? It's 2 sheets of 5/8 and you got two 2x6 wall, 2x6. This is on each side. Does that make sense? Just like you would any other structure, it has to meet the standard for firewalls.
and you don't mean you mean 2 to 4
We're
units.
talking about two, yeah,
Multi-family duplexes.
yes, and that's gonna be the prevalent product.
Or
2 to 4 units.
Okay, let's just see what I'm thinking. Anyways, so we did that, we're in the zone, we're, got through the school budget. As you all saw the article that Neil Williamson did, Nelson County is the spendiest county. That is thanks to the,
Supervisors of Nelson County.
Tommy Barlow, they took our money. They came in the middle of the night, they broke into the bank, and took it all. No, it's related towards the school system and the shrinking school population, and then the LCI and how that's impacted this. Like, we're hemorrhaging millions of dollars. So,
We were the least spending according to that metric.
you know.
So
I
it
don't
can't be sort of
understand.
confusing. I mean, it's mostly a measure of acceleration.
I don't know, it's Charlottesville like going straight up, so I don't know.
I mean, when I went to his methodologies, it seems like it's a measure of acceleration of spend, which means like a spendier locality. Has less room to grow, right?
Right. Here's what
If we're not viewing this as some sort of challenge.
I didn't know we were winning, but regardless, we did that, I have nothing else to add.
Charlottesville, Commissioner Dronzi.
Want to, I can defer to you and just back up saying, because most of what I got is kind of tangential.
Keep it brief, I guess the two biggest things is one, the city, the new zoning ordinance, the lawsuit which the city had entered default judgment for was reversed, so the zoning code is back in place and the trial is set for June 2026. So, but the new zoning will be in place until the conclusion of that trial, if the city loses. But anyways,
There will be no procedural errors going forward, I think.
well,
We've made that pretty clear.
but it's.
Yeah.
And homelessness, always a big topic for the city. Earlier this week, we had an agenda item, first reading for a resolution about banning camping throughout all city property. It was a very contentious meeting, that resolution was tabled. But the main thing, I think the city is still trying to identify a site and move forward with creating a permanent year-round low barrier shelter. As kind of the main fix that's needed. Charlottesville's homeless population is probably, it's been pretty steady for honestly about a decade, from 200 and 250. And we have a low barrier shelter that has that level of capacity. You have I think to make a really big impact there. Won't solve everything, but anyways, those are probably the two biggest items for us recently.
So the terms of legislative matters, planning commission ran through its wish list to send on to council. Like said, you probably haven't even seen that yet. Right, okay, so we'll skip over that. Some of those, one of those recommendations was one that we had avoided processing last year because it had to do with clarifying the involvement of Department of Transportation and resort large scale zoning and planning matters, which is the pointing into the spear of this lawsuit. We decided discretion is the better part of valor, not to put a spotlight on that. This year, our city attorney was very welcoming of that idea and has very specific ideas, since it's all open and, we're now a full-aged battle in the courts on that, we might as well. So there's that. Yes, that the ordinance that ran into the buzzsaw on Tuesday was a big thing, and then just to synergize on use that again, use it twice in one day, sorry. Your comment on transportation funding and lows and frequency, would I point out that if you're south of Main Street, City of Charlottesville, it takes you much less time to get designs lows than it does to get out 29 because of the transportation matters there. Just
So I haven't been.
yeah, I'm sure you do. I don't think I've got anything else. Large scale. We got yeah, it's all legislative stuff. It's still in the sausage making stage.
And despite all the narratives about the downtown mall, it has a lower vacancy rate than the corner Seminole Square with Barracks Road. So it's not dead.
Yeah, I mean, saying you have a lower vacancy rate in Seminole Squares. It's like saying you're the. It's like saying you're the best hockey player in South Sudan.
The corner, Barracks Road. Barracks Road at the corner. Thank you. Just a reminder, the next meeting will be October 2nd, 7 p.m. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Yes.
moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
All right.